You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. My name is Arya Whitner, and this is your NXT Heavy Update for Wednesday, April 12, 2017. Thank you all for listening. NXT TakeOver had a commercial that aired 5 bajillion times, and it ended, weirdly enough, with the phrase, "Change is coming." Well, if anything else, this show proved that there is some change. For the first time in well over 3 years, we got a brand new video package, a brand new theme song for NXT. We had a brand new graphics package, just a whole bunch of little things. Plus, and we'll have to see if this continues every week, we have a slightly different format, which, there were always strings of uncompetitive matches on NXT, but this week it was very much, the entire undercard was uncompetitive matches followed by, a good little 10-minute main event, which actually, believe it or not, reminded me of, Superstars from back in the day, which would be formatted in the same way. But let's kick things off. Aleister Black took on Corey Hollis to kick off the show. I've already said more about the match than how long it lasted. Hollis's name literally means lamb being led to slaughter. Black stood peacefully in the middle of the ring, and when Hollis came near him, Black laid him out with Black Mass, which is a spinning roundhouse kick, and pinned him in 10 seconds. Ty Dillinger cut a promo about how great it was to debut on SmackDown Live last week, but he has a nagging feeling that he saw some unfinished business. And so next week, he is going to go one-on-one with Eric Young inside of a steel cage. They advertised Drew McIntyre's NXT debut, quote-unquote, against Oney Lorcan tonight, which, by the way, is wrong. I know I'm not expecting any sane person to know this off the top of their head, but Drew did compete in Full Sail back in 2012, having a handful of matches. DIY took on Dylan Miley and Michael Blaze in the next match. Dylan is a very large man. He is taller and wider than both Gargano and Ciampa, which, to be fair, doesn't normally say much because they are on the smaller side of things. But he is bigger than your average jobber du jour. And he actually, at no point was Dylan on the defense. He brought the offense to Gargano and Ciampa, at one point picking Gargano up for a suplex and then walking around the ring, carrying Johnny Wrestling for almost a full minute before dropping him. Then Miley made the mistake that so many young wrestlers do when they're dominating and have size and strength advantage over his foes. He tagged out. Michael Blaze came in, to which Percy Watson had to ask if he was a Lunger's brother. He might be Bobby Blaze's brother for all we know. Maybe Bobby Blaze's son. But anyway, he got in no offense as opposed to Miley, who had nothing but offense. Blaze got cut off right away, and DIY pinned him with the running knee strike / kick to Blaze. Miley looked very angry after the match, and it turned out he didn't just look pissed, he was pissed, as he assaulted Blaze and laid him out with an Iron Claw slam and then a power slam. Next up was more in the ongoing story of Asuka and Ember Moon. After NXT TakeOver, the crew had taken down the set in the ring when Ember just wandered out to stare out at the empty crowd. She was sad that this was supposed to be her moment and her opportunity, that she can do anything and win the title. She appeared to be on the verge of crying as she talked about Asuka will do anything to retain the title, but she did vow to be the one to take the championship from her. Up next, Ruby Riott was in action. Now, I'm sure you might be wondering what her opponent's name is, and I've got two possible answers for you. The ring announcer called her opponent Kimberly Franklin. Tom Phillips called her opponent Kimberly Frankel. Either way, she got her butt kicked. Ruby beat the hell out of her. Kimberly actually did get her own entrance music and entrance, so she was different than the other jobbers on the show. However, she would have gotten in zero offense if it had been for Sanity's Nikki Cross coming out and distracting Ruby Riott momentarily. Franklin/Frankel got in a little bit of offense, culminating in a knife-edge chop. Now, we've all seen knife-edge chops. We've probably given them to our siblings. I know I've given them to Mayan. I know he's given them to me. And I know they can sting a little bit. Ruby Riott did the single best sell job of a chop I've ever seen, as she just got this look on her face that said, "Bitch, I'm about to kill you." And sure enough, she killed her. And she won with a Pele kick, and Cross just laughed and walked away. Earlier today, Peyton Royce and Billie Kay were going through the WWE Performance Center. They were making fun of everything, including the posters on the wall, the other people working out in the trainer's room. And they found Liv Morgan and Aaliyah being worked on in the trainer's room and mocked them for being losers. Finally, Liv shoved Billie into that tub of water that people use for rehab. I'm sure you know exactly the tub I'm talking about, and I'm sure there's hundreds of people listening right now who are all screaming at me saying that it has a very specific name, and I'm sorry, it's a tub of water. And Billie Kay sold it like death. I don't know if Peyton Royce really was there. However, she was the quote-unquote camera person, and you could hear her talking to Billie the whole time. And she did not help Billie out of the water, and instead forced one of the training staff to. And, that was the weekly torture test for Billie Kay, who it seems like the past 6 weeks, ever since the moment where Ember Moon gave her the eclipse and she got laid out and had to be carried away, there's just been one way to embarrass them after another. It's weird. Finally, it took till the main event, but we got a competitive match as Oney Lorcan took on the returning/debuting Drew McIntyre. I gotta tell you, and this happened with Luke Gallows too. After years of calling Drew McIntyre Drew Galloway, it was hard to get back in the knack of calling him McIntyre. So if I slip and say Galloway, I apologize. Just, force of habit. McIntyre's new theme music, and Percy talked about how he and Wade Barrett were the first FCW Tag Team Champions way back when. Lorcan got knocked out of the ring early, so he got back in the ring and knocked Drew out. However, when Lorcan went for a top rope water maneuver, McIntyre caught him and slammed him on the ring apron. Not sure if you remember, but the ring apron is the hardest part of the ring. McIntyre looked really good here. He's definitely improved in the years since leaving WWE. Now, it is possible that he was always this good, but, by the time he got better, WWE lost any confidence in him and, never gave him a chance to have a really good match. But this was a fun 10 minutes. I wouldn't say it's worth going out of your way to see. However, if you did watch it, you would not complain. Lorcan used his running blockbuster for a 2 count. I should point out the crowd, and I don't know if they're going to do this for all the shows from this taping, but during every near fall, they count 1, 2, and when somebody kicked out, they yelled, "Sweet!" It was kind of neat when they did it here. I got this feeling it's going to become really annoying if they keep it up. Lorcan and McIntyre, by the way, back to the match at hand. They battled on the top rope. Lorcan caught Drew in the Tree of Woe, but Drew sat up and used the belly-to-belly throw. Lorcan slapped him, so Drew dropped him with a reverse Alabama slam and then pinned him with a running kick to the yap. After the match, Drew cut a promo saying he could have gone anywhere, including both Raw and SmackDown. However, he doesn't want to be anywhere but NXT. We entered the show with a ceremony where NXT got to say goodbye to the two-time former NXT champion Shinsuke Nakamura. I was at SmackDown last night, and all I can say is that year in NXT paid off because, yes, ladies and gentlemen, Nakamura definitely knows where the hard camera is. Nakamura cut about a 5-minute promo here, in a way, thanking specifically the fans, but also talking about the guys in the back, talking about the trainers. Last year he said he came to NXT from Japan to prove that he was the best. He said that he's learned a lot from the NXT superstars and the coaches, and he's learned a lot especially from the fans. Nakamura said NXT is its own brand, its own energy, and its own life. NXT created something new, something unique, and called the NXT universe crazy. The fans were proud of being called crazy, I should point out. Nakamura said the fans created the chants and the singing and how it's different than other fan bases. They created their own style. Nakamura said he will always be NXT and led the crowd in chanting, "We are NXT." There were actually fans crying as the entire locker room emptied out onto the stage, led by William Regal and Hideo Itami, and they clapped and cheered on the former champion. Nakamura held his arms out open and mouthed thank you to all the wrestlers, most of whom looked genuinely happy for Nakamura. Not saying any of them weren't genuinely happy for him, but there were a few with smiles just as big, if not larger, than Shinsuke's. The fans chanted, "Thank you, Shinsuke," as Nakamura finally made it up the ramp, shaking hands with Mr. Regal. Suddenly, just as the show was about to end, Finn Balor, who was hiding in the back, and he's a small guy, so not anybody saw him, he showed up through the crowd to give Nakamura a big hug, and the crowd popped for seeing him there. So that is it for Orlando. That is it for the Shinsuke Nakamura era. Next week, we say goodbye to the Perfect 10, at least for now, as he faces Eric Young in a cage. And until then, thank you all for listening, and I'll talk to you again in 7 days.